Hi everybody, it's Mrs. Raven Tactical, and while Raven is away doing his thing that he does, I am going to take the opportunity to show you a recipe. This is a recipe that has become a Sunday night tradition in our house, and it is homemade pizza. So if you're interested in the recipe, go ahead and grab a piece of paper and a pencil because I'm going to go over the ingredient list with you. First thing you're going to need is a tablespoon of yeast. We buy our yeast in bulk, but if you have store-bought yeast, it would be the equivalent of one of those foil packs that comes in like the perforated packs of or strips of 3. So one of those, or a tablespoon of yeast. You're going to need a 1/4 cup of sugar, a tablespoon of honey, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of very warm water, 2½ cups of flour, 3 tablespoons of good quality olive oil, and a tablespoon of Italian seasoning. Now this crust is going to be used for an Italian flavored pizza with your traditional sausage and pepperoni. It also makes a great base for taco pizza, in which case you would just omit the Italian seasoning in the recipe. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is, in a good big sized mixing bowl, you're going to add your warm water. The water needs to be warm to activate the yeast. It should be warm enough that it's comfortable to stick your finger in it. You know, you don't want it to be boiling hot, but it does need to be fairly warm. To the warm water, you're going to add your tablespoon of yeast. You're going to add your 1/4 cup of sugar. The sugar acts as food to the yeast. And to that, you're going to add a tablespoon of honey. This honey comes from our neighbors, folks that are in our mag group. They have bees, and this is as fresh as it comes. All right, some people will at this point go ahead and mix their ingredients together. I don't. You need to just allow about 5 minutes to pass for the yeast to start to proof. And what that means is that it's being activated by the warm water and the sugar and honey, which are feeding it, and it will it'll start to look bubbly and kind of thick. I can show you what that looks like. Right now, you can see it just kind of looks like a bunch of nothing, but in about 5 minutes, this whole bowl is going to be kind of fluffy and bubbly. So about 5 minutes have elapsed since I started my yeast. This is, if I can get it in the camera, this is what it's going to look like. Kind of creamy, a little bit bubbly. You can see some surface bubbles on the top. That's what you're going for. That means that your yeast is good, and it's going to make for a great crust. So, to that, we are going to add our tablespoon of Italian seasoning, 3 tablespoons of good olive oil, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, in our flour. Your recipe calls for 2.5 cups. You're going to use more than that because you're going to need some for flouring your hands and flouring your surface if you choose to dump this out onto a surface for kneading. But 2.5 cups is what you need for the recipe itself. Okay, then I use a wooden spoon and I just start mixing. It doesn't take long until the flour is absorbed, or the water is absorbed into the flour, and it becomes very difficult to stir with the spoon. And once it gets to that point, once the flour is all off the sides of the bowl, then you know it's time to get in there with your hands and start kneading. So I sprinkle a little flour on my spoon and on the top of the surface of the dough. And we'll get whatever's on the spoon off of the spoon. And then just a sprinkle on my hands. And we're gonna go to town with kneading. Now this recipe looks an awful lot like pretty much any bread recipe would start out. I will show you eventually my white bread recipe. I'm going to wait for that until we have the wood stove going, because I just think my bread is so much better when baked in the wood cook stove. But as I mentioned, Raven is away this weekend, and I haven't gotten around to building a fire in the wood stove. I'm too lazy, I guess. I had church this morning and then did some errands and wanted to get this video out for you, so I didn't take the time to go ahead and start a fire in the wood stove. So I'm adding more flour as it starts to stick to my skin or stick to the bowl. What you're after is a very smooth, elastic dough. You don't want to add too much flour that it becomes stiff, but it should end up being nice and easy to work with. You don't have to knead this dough as much as you would for bread dough. Bread dough, I'm typically going to knead for about 6 to 8 minutes. This doesn't require quite as much. Now, for people who are not used to working with yeast dough, this can be kind of intimidating, and you're probably wondering why. Are you going to all this trouble when you could just go buy some store-bought crust? And the answer is, this tastes so much better than anything you can buy in a store. Plus, it's a skill that we preparers need to work on. Bread is going to be a staple in everyone's diet eventually. So I've been using my opportunity as I get it to learn to work with yeast dough. I didn't grow up knowing how to do this. I'm self-taught. Thank God for YouTube. All right, so my dough is nice and smooth and elastic. And now we need to just let it rest for an hour. So before we do that, I'm gonna take my olive oil, pick up my dough, put some olive oil in the bottom of my bowl, use my hands to just kind of smooth it around the bottom and up a little bit onto the sides. Take my dough, drop it in, give it a nice twist so it gets some of the oil on the bottom. And then I'm flipping it back over so that the oiled side is up. And now the unoiled side is down, so that's getting some oil. And that is it for an hour. This guy is going to rest. It's going to rise. Just using a nice clean towel to drape over it. And then this is going to go in a nice warm draft-free place until it is about doubled in size. So I'll see you back shortly. Okay, so it's been about an hour, maybe a little bit longer than that. Our dough has nicely risen. And now we are going to pat it into our pizza pan and decorate our pizza. You can, if you want, roll it with a rolling pin. I am choosing just to pat it into my pan with my hands. This makes a pretty thick, dense crust. I actually prefer a thin, crispy crust, but my family likes the thicker. And usually when everybody's home, I actually double this recipe and we make 2 pizzas and then we have leftovers for lunch the next day. So you pat it nice and evenly across the bottom, and then you build a little bit of a lip around the edges to hold in your sauce and your toppings. While I'm doing this, I've preheated my oven to 465. It has to be a very, very hot oven to bake out this dough and all the toppings. And we probably overload our pizza. We're from Wisconsin, so we like cheese. And we put a lot of cheese on our pizza. You can put whatever you want on your pizza. It takes about 11 minutes to bake once you've got everything added that you'd like to use. And it may need adjustment if you end up putting a lot of toppings on. It may need a little bit longer of a cook time. And I like to cook mine maybe just another 30 seconds to a minute longer than the recommended 11 minutes because I like my dough to be absolutely baked, not doughy anywhere. So I've just put on some standard fare pizza sauce. I put down a light layer of mozzarella on top of the sauce. And some people are like, well, that doesn't look like a light layer. But again, we're from Wisconsin. I have fried up some mild Italian sausage, a 12-ounce package of that. So this is a very hearty, very satisfying meal all in itself. You can add a side salad to it if you want to pretend that you're eating a healthy meal. There's really not much healthy about this. And then I go in again with another light layer of mozzarella. We like green olives, so I've chopped up some of those. Gives it a nice salty, briny flavor. Again, a lot of people don't like that. You put on your pizza whatever you want. This is mine. Okay, then I'm adding, again, a light layer of shredded cheddar cheese. We'll throw on some pepperoni. And I will finish this off with, yes, another light layer of mozzarella. Here we go. And I know this seems like a lot of cheese, but we're not even done with the cheese. Once this pizza has baked and come out of the oven, I'm going to sprinkle it with Parmesan. All right, so my pizza's all ready. It's going to go into the oven again, 465 degrees for approximately 11 minutes, give or take a couple of minutes extra. And I'll see you when that is done. Doesn't that look good? Don't you wish you were at my house? See you next time, guys. If you like the video, hit the subscribe button, the like button, do all the stuff that you're supposed to do on a YouTube video, and keep watching for more content.